Hi, this is Denise Matthew. I hope you're doing well. So, we are back again for July 2022 transits, and as expected, things are starting to rev up a little bit. I did mention last month in the June forecast that we would be having sort of a slowdown, and then it was going to pick up quite a bit. And as soon as we get out of the gate into July, we immediately get into energy that's starting to accelerate things. The very first day, we have Mars and Pluto coming together in a quantum, or they're making a full channel, the 360. Now, this activates the root center and also the sacral center. So anybody who doesn't have a defined sacral normally may feel this quite impactfully. Ultimately, though, this energy is really talking about this idea that we want to be free. We want to have freedom. We're feeling limited. We want to have the ability to do what we want to do in our lives. And maybe we don't feel that that is actually the experience that we've been having. So this is wanting to have some clarity, some direction, trying to get rid of the confusion that may be there in where you want to direct your energy. It's also mutative energy, which means that it pulses on and it pulses off. In other words, you get these downloads and you may not necessarily know what you want to do with it, and yet you know there's something important there, but the clarity of exactly what that means for you isn't quite there. This says that it will come, and patience is part of the process. So if you have patience with your process, you will get the information that you need. We also have a lot of logical energy this month. And the interesting thing about logical energy is that there's a part of logical energy that we don't always take into consideration when we think about logical energy. If we look at it as holding of the structures of the world around us, keeping our schedules on time, making sure the structures that we depend on are secure. In other words, we want to make sure that the grocery stores are open, that the buses are on schedule, and all the structures that allow us to get from A to B to live a life are there for us when we need them. But the other perspective of this energy is this idea that as we allow all these structures to be in place, we also give up some level of control, which means that we follow the rules. We decide that, okay, I'm going to follow this rule. I'm going to do this, this, and this, because if I do this, then I get this bus on time, the grocery stores that are going to be open, and all the things that I know will be there for me when I need them. So there's always a level of control with logical energy. And in fact, if we look at the global cycle that we're in, which is the cross of planning, the main foundation of that cross is to have structures that are there for civilization to grow and evolve. And yet there are always going to be rules that we have to follow to keep those structures in play. And that is going to be a theme potentially that we will be seeing moving through the month of July, especially with an abundance of logical energy, because this is where we have the clinical and controlled energy that says, you follow these rules, we sort you into these piles, and we organize you. Now, as to be expected, not everybody wants to be organized, and not everybody wants to be sorted into piles and said, you're best for this. And what can happen when we do have an abundance of logical energy, we could say that the powers that be go over the line and potentially are trying to organize almost too much, to the point where people start to push back and say, no, we want our own freedom, we want our own rights, especially when we have Saturn moving back into the gate 49, which brings this tribal flair and flavor that really amps up the energy and says, we need to be supported. We're not going to follow the rules unless you're actually giving us what we signed up for. And that is just amping up this energy. It does talk to the potential of food insecurity issues, which we've been talking about for the whole year. I talked about this theme in my yearly forecast, and it's been a theme that we've seen playing out in the real world. And this theme is going to become even more prevalent as we move forward, especially when we get to the end of July, when we have a full 1949 channel, which will heighten this energy of emotional connection to this need to be supported, to have what we need. We put our energy into a leadership, and when we're not receiving what we need to survive, then that's when things can get a little more intense. We have the activation of a few channels again, as we did last month. One is the 3536, which we experienced last month. And this is this energy for manifesting new experiences. And we also have a couple of logical collective energy channels, the 731 and also the 1762. And what that means is that, as I said before, we have a tremendous amount of logical collective energy. The upside to logical collective energy is that there's potential for you to find the solutions to patterns that no longer work for you in your life. life, things that you want to change. And you may have this ability to figure out something that is more worthwhile for you to do, a place where you want to place your energy and to redirect your path, because we do have Uranus moving in the gate 2, and also the nodal change that's going to come at the end of the month that's going to really push us into this direction of where exactly we want to go, and we are starting to manifest that energy. These are powerful mutative directions where you are moving toward the place where you want to go, a place that maybe you never thought you could, but suddenly there's an avenue for you to make it part of your new destination. So let's get into the details. As I did last month, I did a full cheat sheet so you can have an idea of when exactly the transits are going to happen. And if you want even more detail, please check out my community page where I do a daily post of the transits that are happening every day, as well as any extra information that you need to know to navigate your life and have a heads up about what energy is in play and also how it factors into your life. On July 1st, the sun moves into the gate 39 and the earth moves into the gate 38. So we are illuminating provocation, and we are grounding into this idea that we are going to fight the good fight, or the things that matter to us. So this is very mutative energy. In other words, it is something that is personal to us. It is personal to you in that you are being provoked to fight for the things that matter to you. Those things that you don't want to sit on the sidelines and watch happen. And instead you want to be in the fray and deciding, okay, we're not going to take this anymore, whatever that is for you. When we add in that we have the 360 activated at this time, we are really pushing with this energy of the pulse of mutation that's saying that many things in life are difficult in the beginning, and maybe things don't work out exactly as we want them to, but eventually the limitations that we have fall away, and then we can start to move forward and get the changes that we want in our lives. Now, this is something that we're talking about is brand new energy. It's not something that is status quo. When we talk about mutation, this is new ideas, new concepts, new ways of doing things that have never been done before. The full 360 channel can sometimes bring some level of melancholy or feeling the blues, and this is something that if you keep this in mind and understand that this is part of the process, you can use the energy of your melancholy and direct it into creativity. And creativity can be anything. It can be just walking out in the park, being out in nature. It can be painting pictures. It can be singing. It can be dancing. It can be playing sports. Wherever you are doing something that you like to do, then that is where you can put your energy, and that way you are directing the energy and not allowing it to sort of bottle up inside of you. You move through the energy, and as with everything, the flow just shifts and changes as it would. But it's only when we stop and say what's wrong with us that it stops the flow of energy, and sometimes this energy can be there a lot longer than it needs to be. The sun in the gate 39 is provoking the spirit. And when we talk about the spirit of the gate 39, we're talking about the energy of who we are as individuals, who you are authentically, and the expression of your individuality. And what are you willing to fight for so that you can be you and be able to express yourself out in the world. And that's what this energy is encouraging you to do. Also on July 1st, we have Mercury moving into the gate 12, and this is also individual energy. The key word with this energy is caution, and this is really talking about this idea of being cautious with who you share yourself with. If we move back to the individuality and the expression of the spirit of yourself with the gate 39, we're talking about you expressing your individuality. But when we bring in the gate 12, this is a social energy, and this says that when you are in the mood to socialize, that's when you will be best seen and heard as you want to be heard. Because ultimately, when you're sharing yourself, this comes from a very personal perspective of who you are. And if you don't have the right audience, or you don't have the right spirit that you can share yourself with, then a lot of times you can feel as though people aren't understanding you, they're not seeing you for who you are, they don't get you. And then it's this point where you might withdraw and get to the other spectrum of the gate 12, which is this aloneness, where you're alone and you don't really want to get out into the world. So this is saying being cautious about who you share yourself with, who you share your truth with, will benefit you in the long run. And especially when it comes to Mercury, because this is all about communication with other people. It could be even social media, what you're saying on social media, who's seeing your posts and who's seeing what you're saying. And I would say that this would be a time to generally be careful about what you're saying and who you're letting into your inside world. On July 3rd to the 7th, we have Venus moving into the gate 35, and this is once again bringing us a full 35-36 channel between Venus and also Neptune that's in the gate 36. And this talks about experiences that we're manifesting in our life. This is also emotionally charged energy because it does bring the solar plexus or the emotional center right to the throat. This can talk about Venusian experiences where we're having good food, good sex, anything that gives us pleasure. These are pleasurable experiences. This is a time when there's potential to have things that you're enjoying doing. But the key with this energy, as with all abstract collective energy, is to understand that we go into every experience with an openness to what the universe shows us. If we go into any experience with an expectation that it will look like A, B, and C, and it doesn't, then that is when we set ourselves up for disappointment and things don't go as we want them to go. So in other words, if we're open to what we receive and enjoy the experience fully and be fully immersed in it so that when it is over, we fully embrace that we were in that experience and we know how it felt and we have a memory to go with it, then this can be really nice energy where you have an experience that gives you memories of a lifetime. This also speaks to this Venusian energy or a yin energy, and it does talk about something connected to feminine energy, a feminine experience, and a movement of feminine energy that will leave a lasting impression on us if we are fully immersed in it. July 4th, we have Mercury moving into the gate 15, and this is the gate of extremes, but also the love of humanity. This is where we see the humanness in all people and understand that despite how we look, if we look different, what we believe, our cultures, we are all at the root human. And this sees that no matter what, we are all in life together. This is connected to activism, and when we have it in Mercury, we could have this idea of social media posts about activism or anything connected to activism of some sort. Now, when we put this together with the 35-36 channel that's going to be activated at the same time, we do see this Venusian tilt to this energy, this extremism, or on the other hand, this activism to show that we are all in this together. And the message here is that sometimes extremes in a situation are necessary. Now, when we talk about extremes, we're not talking about violence or anything like that. It is more this idea that in certain circumstances, we have to do something extreme so that we can bring order to the situation. So in other words, if you go into a place where everybody is arguing and there's nobody talking in a way that anybody's hearing anything, you could yell at the top of your lungs and say, hey, everyone, be quiet. Now, you look at that from a perspective of everybody else. They feel like that is an extreme measure, for instance, that you're yelling at the top of your lungs in the midst of everybody. But what happens is a lot of times people will get quiet and order will naturally come back. And this is what this is talking about. So sometimes we have to push the envelope to get things done. And on July 6th, we have Saturn moving back into the gate 49. I've been looking at this energy for a long time, and I do feel it is going to bring some level of shifting and changing. And Saturn will be in this energy for the most part until next year, January 2023. This energy talks about relationships and looking at a relationship that you're in and saying, I need to have a certain level of support. And if you're not receiving it, you may decide to walk away because it is no longer of value to you. This is a support given and a support received. From a bigger perspective, we see it as food insecurity, supply chain issues, and those types of energies that are starting to come to the forefront where we have not looked at it for a while, where we've sort of had this energy of not having to look at it, it always being there, but suddenly it's being brought back into focus. And especially since we also have Mercury in the gate 15, because this is talking about this activism to have this need that is not being fulfilled, and having a lot of conversations and even some media interaction about what needs to happen, why people are not being fed, how can we solve this issue, and sometimes revolutionary ideas or revolutionary energies that can shift up the collective so that we can get things on track so that everybody is being supported. And also on July 6th, we have Uranus moving into the line 6, or the gate 2 line 6. This is called fixation. This fixation that we're talking about is connected to this idea of having a one-tracked mind and only going in one direction. Maybe you have an inner knowing that says maybe you should divert your direction. Maybe something within you, outside of you, even your inner authority is telling you that you have to change direction, but you get too scared and you don't want to change direction. And to that point, you don't get that mutation, or you don't get that shift in your consciousness, or even the shift of your reality, because you're too set in this one track perspective, which really sounds a lot like a fourth line energy, but it is a sixth line energy. So what this says is that even though you may see the signs that you need to change direction, you may not want to. So this is where, if you know that that might be a potential for you, especially if you have a hanging gate 14 or even the gate 2 or the full channel, you may kind of have this knowing that, okay, it's time to shift my trajectory a little bit. Maybe it's going just one way that isn't exactly right for me. And now it's saying, maybe it's time to shift it up, and maybe there's a little bit of anxiety. And this could be for all of us, this whole direction thing, because we can all be impacted by the energy of Uranus. It's a slow moving planet, and it can interact with all of our charts. Ultimately, this is saying that you may have signs that you need to change direction. It might be easy for you to ignore them, but absolutely, if you can, shifting might be the best potential for you to get the outcome you want in your future. July 7th, Mercury moves into the gate 52. And this is where we're putting all the details together. So you're sitting with all the details that you've accumulated for the last little while, even the last couple of months, of the plans that you want to make to go forward in your life. And you're going to sit with this energy, contemplate what it means to you, how you want to move forward, what are you going to keep, what are you going to let go of. You might even journal this, or you might even be going to a meditation place where you meditate as a group, or some sort of a retreat, or some meditative experience where you get in touch with the true you and what you want going forward in your life. July 7th, we have the sun moving into the gate 53 and the earth moving into the gate 54. And where Mars at the end of June, and also in the new moon that happened at the end of June, this energy of the gate 42, or closing or maximizing the benefits you can get out of something, now we're starting all over again. We're illuminating this idea of new beginnings. These new beginnings are ambitious new beginnings. They're connected potentially to wanting to make more money, to grow your career, or to some way climb the ladder of life so that you are getting a little bit better than you used to be. The key with the new beginning is that this is cyclical energy, which means that once you get on the treadmill of the gate 53, or you start this new beginning, you're usually kind of stuck in with that energy until it completes. So it's wise to make sure that whatever you're beginning, you really truly want to do that, because if you don't, then you can be stuck in something that you don't necessarily believe in anymore. Or the alternative is that you quit it, and then you always feel like you're incomplete because you didn't finish that thing that you had wanted to. So again, this is very well calculated new beginnings that can eventually lead to some level of abundance, material wealth, career shifts, or something related to getting ahead in life. Also on July 7th, we have Venus moving into the gate 45, and this adds to the emphasis of the energy of the gate 54, where the earth is, where we're grounding into this ambition. This also talks to this ambition for a feminine or a yin energy. We have the voice of women who are rising to the forefront. This is tribal leadership. In other words, this is the voice for the people. This might be a time when we see women who are rising to the forefront, who are being the voice of the collective, or the women that they support. Alternatively, this could be wanting to have nice things in our lives, to treat yourself to something nice because it feels good and you want to feel good. This energy is always about we, not I. So this is an energy for the tribe. In other words, in order for you to be this type of an influential leader, you need to be supporting the people and what they need. And when you do that, then they support you. And on July 8th, Mars goes into the gate 27, and this increases the energy of tribal energy as well. And this talks about nurturing and caring. But when we have Mars in here, this is not necessarily Mars' best place for energy. And so this could be more like a tough love energy where you're being a little bit more on the hard side with your caring. This could also be where you're kind of desperate to get what you need to support those who you need, and you're willing to do whatever it takes to make the type of decisions that maybe you wouldn't normally make, but there's this level of desperation and this aggression and even assertiveness that is saying, I need to take this and I'm going to take this. And you could look at this perspective as when we had COVID and everybody was trying to stock up their shelves, and people were buying all the diapers in the store, and then there were people who couldn't afford to buy ahead of time and they didn't have diapers, but you had other people who were hoarding these diapers, and then it meant that there was an unbalance with who could get things and who couldn't. So this is basically just saying that there could be this aggressive need to support the people who matter to you and not necessarily always looking at the other people who potentially are not your people. So that might be the energy that we see. And if you connect it in with the gate 49, this could be connected to food, support, or anything that we need to survive on planet Earth. And on July 10th, we have Mercury moving into the gate 39, and this is just reactivating the theme of provocation and provoking people into the spirit of being who they are. This could be through social media posts. This could be through something related to media of any kind, communication. And this could be talking to this idea of expressing who you are, your individuality, and to express the truth of who you are. So we can see that Venus and also Mercury are close by. So they're sort of repeating the same energies. And Venus is coming back and repeating the same energy that Mercury went through earlier in the month. And this is just encouraging you again to share yourself with the people that you feel get you or understand you, to allow them to see the true you, and to honor your moods and align with the concept that if you want to go out and socialize, go ahead and do it. But if you want to stay home and not go out with people or go out and socialize, then that should be something that you have a right to do as well. And on July 13th, we have Mercury moving into the gate 53, and we're beginning again new things, and this is all new communicative things. This could be related to starting a new book, a YouTube channel, or something that you are communicating with other people. Alternatively, it can even be doing something with the stock market, because sometimes Mercury can be connected to the stock market. So this is a new beginning, and as with all new beginnings with the gate 53, a well thought out new beginning is always going to be better than something that you just jump into because in that moment it felt like the right thing to do. So that's the key with this energy, to have all the best conditions, to have a well thought out plan, and to use this energy for your benefit so you can have a really strong new beginning that will manifest into something much bigger as time goes on. And on July 13th, we have the Sun and the Earth moving again. The Sun is moving into the gate 62 and the Earth is moving into the gate 61. This is going to bring into play a full channel with Jupiter. The Sun and Jupiter will come together and they'll have the full channel, the 1762. And this will just increase the ability to vocalize the opinions that you have. But the one thing that this does bring is this level of details. So in other words, we're not just going out and talking about all the opinions that we have, and maybe they're not fully formed, and maybe we don't have all the details, but now we have the Sun bringing in the details and saying, okay, this is the details we need in order for it to get to the next process. So we're getting that added emphasis or that added piece of information that we didn't have before. So we may have some better thought out opinions and ideas of how we can move forward in the future. And these practical details, we're grounding into this idea of finding out the unknowable. In other words, we're trying to find the details that we need to potentially connect the dots to the downloads that we might have had, or the pressure that we have to find out the answers or know the things that we don't necessarily know. And the key with all mutative energy or individual energy like the gate 61 is that only in divine timing will we get those answers to the unknown questions that we have. This also brings some level of paranoia and also the connection to potentially wanting to check out and getting into some level of mind altering experience. And this could be through drugs, alcohol, or anything that takes us out of this particular reality. And Mars on July 15th will move into the gate 24. And for a short period of time, this will give us the full 6124 channel. And the nice part about that is it will give us this quantum or this flow of energy. And this is when we might get the energy for knowing the unknowable or having these downloads that kind of give us this insight into what exactly is going on. So we're not just having pressure, we're also having pressure with awareness as well. There is that connection with this wanting to check out of reality, to connect with illusionary experiences, and that's perfectly fine if we can do it in ways that are healthy. And this could be watching good movies or in some way unhooking from the world all around you and checking into something else that is virtually inspired, where you are able to get away from the real world for a little while and contemplate something else completely. And on July 16th, we have Venus moving into the gate 15, bringing back that same theme of activism, extremes, and this sense of yin or feminine energy. This can be related to anything related to feminine energy. It could also be related to anything that we do for pleasure. It could also be connected to extremes in all Venusian things, like too much food, too much sex, or too much of a good thing. And this might be where it becomes a little too much of a good thing, and we have to sort of draw back and say, okay, that was enough, and now we need to sort of go to the other side and maybe back off of all the extremes that we were enjoying up until this time. July 17th, we have Mercury going into the gate 56, and this brings in the same idea of where we're writing about something new. We are starting to do a biography, for instance, or some sort of a journaling experience where you are taking the experiences that you've had and you're starting to document them in some way. And again, this could be related to starting a blog or a YouTube channel where you're talking about the experiences that you had in your life. And this is just bringing them into the forefront and letting other people see the experiences that you've had. This is recollections of what you've done in the past. This is also trying to find the good in the world, and where you're really searching for the nice things in the world, the good people, the good things that maybe you don't necessarily see all the time. And now you're trying to find the light in what feels like darkness. So this is a hopeful energy where you're bringing hope into the mix and seeing that there is potential and hope within the world, even despite all the things that are happening all around us. On June 19th, the sun moves into the gate 56 and the earth moves into the gate 60. And this is just bringing more of this energy to have hope, to believe in something bigger than what you see in front of you, to potentially believe in a better tomorrow. And we also have the earth in the gate 60, and we're grounding into this idea of limitation. And the thing about the gate 60 and the gate 56, they're opposition. And we know that finding imaginative ideas and ways of transcending our limitation, or even believing in this idea that you will have the limitations of whatever it is that's holding you back or you feel is holding you back, released. That's the key with the gate 60, is that as soon as you get comfortable with the limitations that you're living within, or the limitations of your life or your path, or the things that aren't going exactly the way you want them to go, that is when things usually up level or the limitations fall away and you can start to move forward in the path that you've decided on. So this energy really says, hold on to hope. Things will get better. But again, as we always say, things get messy before they get better. And that's what this energy says. But seeing that there is hope beyond it all, and knowing that this too shall pass and things will eventually shift and change. And though it may be one of the most difficult things to do, believing that shifts and changes are in your trajectory can get you through the limitations that you may be feeling in your life. On July 20th, Mercury moves into the gate 31, and this is the voice of influential leadership. This is the democratic voice. So in other words, we had the gate 45 activated earlier in the month, which is the tribal voice of leadership, which talks to this idea that support given and support received, as all tribal energy has. Now with the gate 31, this is energy of leadership, the voice of leadership, that is for the people, but in order for you to be a leader of the people, you must serve the people, and only in serving the people and understanding what they want in the future can you truly be an effective leader with this type of energy. So this can also be where we're seeing this democratic energy of leadership, where people are being voted in to be leaders and where other leaders are being removed from their posts because they're ineffective, especially with Mercury. This could also be that we're seeing in the media where people are pulling their energy away from supporting certain leaders because the leaders just haven't done what they promised to do. And on July 21st, we have Venus moving into this energy of stillness and figuring out the details. This is really talking about this feminine yin energy. And this could be finding out the details or figuring out or contemplating the details that you have connected to your job, how you make your abundance. This could also be related to your relationships and just really thinking about where you want to go in the future, what you see in this particular moment, and collecting all the details so you can have a wider expanse and view of what exactly you want for your life and how you're going to make that happen going forward in the future. And on July 23rd, Mercury moves into the gate 33. And this is talking about this idea of after your experiences are over, all the things that you've been doing, and especially with the channel 3536 that has been activated sort of in June and also July, a lot of things might have been happening in your life. And this is where you're kind of sitting back and going and thinking about all the things that happened, documenting them in your psyche, you could say, even documenting them on paper or making videos or doing something where you were remembering where you were and how it looked. And you're also taking the lessons from where you've already been and trying to bring them forward into the now so that when you have another experience, you have this sense of a wisdom about what happened and how you can shift it up going forward. And on July 25th, we have the Sun moving into the gate 31, and we have the Earth moving into the gate 41. And the Sun moving into the gate 31 is just adding added emphasis on this idea of leadership that is voted into power. There could be a scrutiny about the leadership and this idea that potentially maybe the leaders aren't living up to their promises. And especially with logical energy, we know that there's this potential for a lot of criticism. And if things aren't going as planned, then this is where leaders are potentially taken out of power. And if we connect it to the Earth in the gate 41, there's this pressure and this feeling that if the powers that be or the democratic leaders, and this is not political, this is just a voted in leader, is not doing what they're meant to do, then that means that they shouldn't be there anymore, because ultimately the gate 41 wants a better tomorrow. We want our dreams to be fulfilled. We want to have the things that we're imagining in our life to come to fruition. And if you have leadership that is not following up with the promises that they've made, then this is where we could have a dethroning of leadership. And this can also be connected to this idea of recalibrating the goals that you might have made in the beginning of the year or the beginning of the human design year. And now you're recalibrating, seeing how close you are to the goals that you had set for yourself and deciding what you need to tweak and what you need to stay with. And going forward, you're working even harder to make the things that you want to make happen in your life. And on July 26th, we have Mercury moving into the gate 7. And what this will bring is a full 31-7 channel. And this is the voice of leadership, democratic leadership, again, not political. And it is talking about this idea that this is a voice for the people and of the people. In other words, this is where you're listening, or people are listening, the leaders are listening and knowing what their followers need. And by knowing what their followers are needing, then they're moving forward and coming up with new strategies and plans and ideas for new structures, rebuilding structures, stronger structures in the future that can support the people that are counting on them to come through with the promises that they may have made. And again, this is the same concept of watching the leaders that are saying certain things and who's actually doing what they said they're going to do, and who on the other hand is just talking and doing absolutely nothing. People are going to really notice those people who are just not following through. And this may be potentially a time of reckoning when the people are not going to support somebody who's not going to come through on the promises that they make. And on July 25th, Mars moves into the gate 2, and it will connect with Uranus in the gate 2.6 and activate the theme I talked about before. The other perspective is Mars is not necessarily great in this energy, because Mars is always want to rush forward and not really stop and think about what the plan might be. Again, Mars and all energies have their place, but there's certain connections or certain gates that they just don't do their best in, just because it's not as easy for them to maneuver the energy. It doesn't mean you can't work with the energy if you have this in your body graph, but it does mean that there could be this drive to just change direction, which is potential when Mars is in this energy. So in other words, you could be going along in a certain direction that you think is a great direction, and it may actually be very beneficial to you, and you might be getting closer to the place where you want to be. And then eventually what happens is you have this quick shift of direction. Mars comes in and says, okay, let's quickly just move to this direction. Maybe not necessarily a well thought out plan. You go in the new direction and it just isn't the right direction for you. This could be also where this energy of power becomes overwhelming, where it's just this powerful need to push forward and not really care where anybody's going, just this need to push forward. This could be where people are mowing forward in a certain direction and not really taking anybody else into consideration. So the key with this energy is to know that people might be wanting to switch directions completely, and maybe they want to take you with them, but ultimately it is your decision to know what works for you and to stick with your actual destination of where it is best for you, and to sometimes have to stand in your truth and not go in the direction that someone is trying to force you in, and instead go in the direction that you know is correct for you because your inner knowing has told you that. And on July 26th, we have Venus moving into the gate 39. And this again is the spirit of the self and how we're expressing ourselves. This is provocation. And this really does focus on the feminine yin energy. And this could be provocative female energy that we see in the collective that is pushing the agenda, that is provoking the world with a feminine energy or a yin energy that demands to be seen and heard, and also fully embraced for the individuality, authenticity, and the truth that comes with this presence. July 29th, Mercury moves into the gate 4, and this is more logical collective energy, and this is where we want the answers to the questions that we have within us. And this is different than the gate 61. This is more of a logical answer. This is where we're concerned about chaos, and we want the answers that can bring things back into order. And if we're not getting the answers, sometimes people will just grab at whatever answer comes their way, and that's the downside to this energy. The key with this energy is to understand that an answer in the moment is not necessarily true, and sometimes it takes longer to get the right answers, and a right answer is way more valuable to you than something that just comes really quick and somebody just gives you this kind of blurted out answer. So this is saying that believing everybody who has a specific answer may not be to your benefit. And in fact, doing your due diligence, figuring out things for yourself, and doing your own homework to make sure that whatever people are saying is actually true might be in your best interest. And on July 31st, we have the sun moving into the gate 33. We already saw that energy where we had Mercury going into the gate 33. So this is looking back, remembering the good old days, you could say, and also picking out the information that you think is of value and that you think needs to be documented. So going forward, you have that information sort of in your memory bank so that you can use it as necessary. We also have the Earth going into the gate 19, and this is going to bring the full 1949 channel that I talked about earlier on. And this is with Saturn in the gate 49 and the Earth in the gate 19. Now, this is grounding in. As soon as we have the gate 19 in the Earth, that means that this is a manifestation. This is on the material plane. So this means that there's more potential for this to be activated in the collective, in the world around us, to see this energy of emotional connection with this need to be supported. This can also be related to energy for relationships and this need to be supported in a relationship and not getting the support that you need. This could be an imbalance in a relationship where you potentially are taking care of somebody else and it becomes almost too much, or this idea that you're being assimilated into a relationship where you no longer have any of your own thoughts or beliefs or even feelings, and you're just so connected to this relationship that you lose your whole identity. And this is a potential time to rethink those energies and decide if that's something you want to go forward in when you go forward into the future. The other perspective is that we have this from a global perspective. This is where we have an emotional connection to this food insecurity that we talked about, where things are kind of getting ramped up or amped up, and people are starting to say we need to be supported, and if we're not getting supported, the emotional energy is getting even stronger. And as soon as we get emotions involved in anything, that really does bring that energy up to a crescendo where people start to get a little bit more forceful in vocalizing and also pushing for the needs that they want going forward. And also on July 30th, we have a nodal shift where we are moving out of the channel 4323. We're losing that full channel energy for this knowing. And now we're moving into the north node going into the gate 2 and also the south node going into the gate 1. This really talks about our direction in life, and we've already had Uranus going through this energy for a long time. So this is just adding more emphasis, and you could say it's putting it on the road that we're all walking on. So more of us are pushing into this energy of where we want to go, the trajectory of our life, where we want to find our true north, and how we want to get there. This is also the most yang and most yin energy when we talk about the nodes. So we have a big polarity in the energy that we're bringing into the collective. The gate 1 is also the most primal energy for creation. So this is manifesting inspiration without any limitation. This is inspiring people to create, to make the world a better place. It is also this idea that we are being receptive to what can make the world a better place, to the mutation that can shift the reality so that we are building a new tomorrow, because we know that right now things are shifting and changing, and Pluto is transforming everything through the limitations that we're experiencing. And now we have this energy of creating a new tomorrow, creating a new direction, and really as a global perspective, walking a new path and being receptive to the things that can lead to action and activity that can bring big changes in the future. And that's it for the transits for July. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I will see you again for the next full moon. And until then, take care and bye for now.